What's going on, Socialites? Welcome to a very special tier list video. For those who don't know, Pokemon Unite dropped yesterday, and I've been loving it. A lot of the other members of the society have been loving it. And listen, alright, I've been grinding nonstop. I used a VPN, got my time shifted over to Japan, so I was able to start playing early. Nonstop, haven't gotten any sleep, skipped work, skipping meals, all this stuff. I got expert on all 20 Pokemon that are available right now. So I am the source for this tier list. Yes, we are ranking all the Pokemon champions, whatever you want to call them, in Pokemon Unite, the new Pokemon-themed MOBA by Tencent. And yeah, we're gonna hop right into it. So it was very hard to find a tier list that was actually accurate. A lot of people were either missing Pokemon or had ones left over from the beta, but we did finally find a good one. So thank you. I'm glad that I didn't have to spend the time adding all these pictures and doing all this. Sometimes that doesn't work. All right, so we're gonna go right into it. We also got this handy website so that we can look at stats and abilities real quick, but we'll try and make this pretty quick. So first off, we have Absol. He is a speedster. Now let's take a look at Absol's stats. Offense 7, that's pretty high. Mobility 8, one of the best. Pretty slightly below average endurance and average scoring. But here's the thing, Absol can do big damage. All of his abilities, if we go and look here, he has increased critical hit rate. So your speedster is kind of like what you would call in a MOBA the jungler. You're going to be in the middle. You're going to be taking down, wild Pokemon, building up your energy. You're going to use your speed to go between the two lanes, whichever side kind of needs help. You'll go in, poke, do some damage, and then retreat back to the middle lane. When there's a base that's open, you'll flank down and score on it, etc. So you want to be able to do big damage in short sprints and then get the heck out of here, which is really awesome for Absol. Again, he's got an increased critical hit rate, so he has a higher chance of doing even more damage than normal. And he already has a 7, which is pretty good. Pursuit is really nice. Basically, if the opponent is trying to run away, you get an extra attack on them. And kind of in the same vein, Sucker Punch, it charges up, and if you get hit, it deals more damage. And the Pokemon Unite is a very chaotic game. Sometimes when you have a bunch of Pokemon together, you don't really see what's going on. The auto aim is a little wonky. It takes some getting used to. Sometimes I want to use a dash attack to kind of flank or get away, but it auto aims to a wild Pokemon or to the enemy, etc. So a lot of stuff can happen with these pursuits and sucker punches. And with that, Absol is our first S tier. Right off the bat, we're going with an S tier. Absol is probably the best jungler in the game, again, due to his high speed, for a speedster, average bulk, and just the damage he can dish out. Next, we got Ninetales. So Ninetales is an attacker. And what's interesting about Ninetales is you see here, 8 on offense, which is really good, second best in the game, behind only two other Pokemon and tied with a few. It has low endurance, which means it's not going to take a lot of hits, and has low mobility, which is unfortunate for attacker, but you see it has a support of 6. Now, Ninetales has some very interesting abilities. Its Snow Warning ability, whenever you hit with a basic attack, you slow the opponent. And if you keep hitting them multiple times, they will freeze, so they'll get stuck for a couple seconds, not be able to do anything. And with its natural damage, that does a lot. And then, not only that, but it gets this ability attack, Aurora Veil, which drops an area of effect ring, and while you're inside of it, you and your allies get reduced damage against you, and you get higher movement speed and stronger basic attacks while you're in it. So Again, I was saying how chaotic some of these games can be, where you just get like, 4v4 battles going on at some of the goals. Ninetales dropping an Aurora Veil right there is huge. Again, if you're just spamming your basic attack and then some of your other specials also can freeze, that's taking a Pokemon out for a second or two, and that's huge in the amount of damage that some of these Pokemon can do. So again, despite its frailty, just with its support options, Ninetales is a solid A pick. Next up we have Charizard. Charizard is basically like, we can just look at the stats. It is the just like average kind of Pokemon. It has it as a melee attacker, but it actually has a little bit of range. You do have to get closer than most of the ranged Pokemon, but it's not like some of them that will get up to like Machamp and Snorlax. So you can see Flamethrower has pretty good range despite being a melee attacker. Fire Blast gives you area of effect damage and some zoning. Seismic Slam, when you use it, that's your Unite attack. You fly, and then you click it again to come down, pick an opponent up, and slam them down, stunning them and throwing them a little bit. So, again, Charizard's kind of like your average. He doesn't excel at anything, but he's a solid pick. He's a B pick. I'm not upset when I see Charizards on my team. Next up is Cinderace. Cinderace is another attacker. You see here, 8 on the offense, 3 endurance, which is pretty low. He has a 6 mobility, which is above average. Now, he's just all about attacking. You do have the Pyro Ball, which is pretty good, and reduces the cooldown on some of your other attacks. Now, the big thing about Cinderace is his Blaze ability and his other attacks is that they burn your opponent, so you get some damage over time even after you're done attacking, which is nice. And when Cinderace is damaged, and again its endurance is low, when it's at less than half HP, your critical hit and basic attack speed are increased, so you're burning everything at that point and you're doing some big damage. So as long as you're not like getting 3v1'd, you should be okay with Cinderace. Again, that burn is pretty big, and just the amount of damage it can do. Like right when you think you're about to kill it, it goes into Blaze, and then it just destroys you. So with this mobility and its power, Cinderace is another A tier Pokemon. Go on to Cramorant. Now Cramorant is interesting. It's definitely a high skill Pokemon in my opinion. Like there is a learning curve. You can see it has 8 offense, so it's very offensive. 6 endurance and 6 mobility. So it's actually pretty bulky for an attacker, which does make it nice. Now, its first upgrades, Surf and Dive. I mean, Surf's just the better one, so you're going to want to click Surf. But when you use it, you come up with a prey, like either an Arrokuda or sometimes even a Pikachu. And when you get hit by an opponent, if you have this prey in your mouth, you will shoot it out as a counterattack. And it's a pretty strong counterattack. So again, kind of like disincentivizes people from maybe 1v1ing you a little bit. Again, and with high mobility and endurance, it's pretty good. As for its other attack, they're kind of just damaging. You can get Air Slash for the late game. It can give you some healing. And then your Unite move, Gatling Gulp Missile. This is really a chaotic busted move. Again, I talk a lot about like the chaos, especially once you get Unite moves. But this move will just like brrr, you set up on a flank and you just destroy all these Pokemon. So again, high skill curve, but if you can get it, he's solid A. But because of skill curve, I'm going to put him at B. Again, you master him, he's an A, especially with his stats. All right, next we have Crustal, which is the first defense Pokemon that we're taking a look at. Now, it has a 3 offense, so pretty low, 8 endurance, which is good, and 3 mobility. Now, Crustal's ability, Sturdy, When you get to lower HP totals, your defense is raised, so it kind of keeps you around a little longer. You can keep fighting. Now, this is the thing. Crustal, you build in one of two ways with your first move upgrade. You can either do Rock Tomb, which is a zoning, trapping tool, you know, very, very support-oriented, or you get Shell Smash. And I've seen some crazy stuff happen with a Crustal Shell Smash. It turns your defenses into attack, and you get like a double in speed for a while, which is huge. And in the same vein, you can have Stealth Rock, which again is another area of denial ability, more support, or X-Scissor, which is damage. Now, with this kind of split, okay, hard support or like kind of like bulky attacker, it kind of makes Crustal hard to justify as your defender of choice. I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm saying if you're going for a defender, you're probably going to pick one of the other options. So with that, Crustal is a C pick, but it's always interesting when your opponent has a Crustal on the other side. You don't know till like the early to mid game, like early mid game somewhere, if they're going to go support or offense, you know. But it is interesting that you could technically put it on a double defense or double support team and get that Shell Smash so that you're like tanking some hits, doing some stuff, and then you Shell Smash and clean up, especially if you do like a Unite move with Shell Smash. It'll do so much damage. Alright, next up we have Eldegoss, which is our first support Pokemon that we're talking about. Now you see pretty middling stats as far as our offense, endurance, and average mobility go. However, the huge thing is that Eldegoss is the only Pokemon that can heal its allies actively. And you do that through Pollen Puff, which you can shoot at allies to restore HP to them. And you can also create other defenses with Cotton Spore and Cotton Down. And the Cotton Guard will also heal your allies if they're in the cotton when it finishes up. So just the fact that it's kind of like the only like cleric here for healing, Eldegoss is going to be an A pick. It's a very solid support Pokemon. Again, you got to play the support role with it. But I've had an Eldegoss kill some things, you know. All the Pokemon do, I mean, they do damage. It's just how do you play around them. Alright, next up we got Garchomp, the all-around Pokemon. Look at his stats. He's got 7 offense, 7 endurance, so he's a bulky attacker, average mobility of 5. When you're hit by a melee attack, which again there aren't too many, but this is nice, a portion of the damage received is reflected back at the attacker. So you can do something. Let's take a look at the builds here real quick. Oh, they didn't put it, but I was thinking like you could put like a Rocky Helmet and just have a lot of passive damage going out. So you got Dig, which you go underground, so you're kind of immune for a while and you can come up. And then you got big damage with Earthquake and Dragon Claw. So if you want like an AoE effect or like a forward slashing effect. And then Livid Outrage, you almost become like invulnerable for a while and just like attack a bunch of stuff. Like people gotta like run away from you and wait till your outrage is done and then kind of come in and try and clean up from there. But just from the fact that it's so bulky, a lot of the Pokemon are gonna take damage back from trying to hit it. And it's a very solid like a very solid attacker. It has a lot of utility with Dig and either Earthquake or Dragon Claw. Garchomp is another S tier for us. Probably the best all-arounder in the game. Alright, next up we got Gengar. So Gengar is a speedster, which means you want it kind of in the middle. Now, he does have the passive ability Levitate, which increases his movement speed when he's not fighting, which does allow him to get those flanks very nicely. He already has a mobility of 8, so with Levitate, he becomes one of the fastest. So you can, again, flanking going from low lane to high lane, etc., top lane. 7 offense, 4 endurance, which isn't horrible. It's not the worst, especially for speedsters. Now, he does have a pretty high skill gap, though. His first attack, Shadow Ball, it's a pretty slow-moving projectile attack, but it does decrease the opponent's movement speed and special defense for a short time when it hits. Or you have Sludge Bomb, which is kind of like an area of denial sort of thing. Like, they'll take damage if they walk through it. Probably Shadow Ball is the best for this. And then his second attack, you got Dream Eater, which can put opponents to sleep and then restore some HP from them if clicked again. Or Hex, which is kind of like a teleportation move. So, again, a lot of different skills there. I definitely think Gengar is a good Pokemon. I think you can have him be somewhere around B if you play with him well enough. But for starters, he's going to be in C. You just got to practice a lot with him because his moves aren't fast. He's a fast Pokemon, but his attacks aren't fast. They take some strategy to kind of set up. Again, Shadow Ball is kind of a slow-moving projectile. And you don't want to go into the fight because then you're going to start getting clobbered. You're not going to get your Levitate for you to flank back and around. Dream Eater is kind of awkward because it has decent range. It's not like Yawn, which we'll get to for Snorlax, but you do got to get a little closer. Alright, next we got Greninja, one of the attackers. 8 offense, so again, 8 is kind of like the benchmark for attackers. I don't think any of them have below 8. 4 endurance, so below average, and 6 mobility, which is above average. He has the Torn ability, which while he's at half or less health, his attack and movement speed are increased, which is nice, but if you're an attacker and you start getting below half health, unless you're like in a 1v1 situation, you got to start like thinking if you're going to get out of there. Surf, again, every Pokemon that has Surf is most likely going to run it. And then he has some like illusionary tools as his second, Double Team, which creates some copies. I've been fooled by this once, I think. And Smoke Screen, which creates like a blanketed effect here. Now, I'm not too high on Greninja. I know there are a lot of Greninja fanboys, but honestly, this is going to be our first D tier. As far as attackers go, I just don't think it does enough compared to something like Ninetales is better for support. Cinderace is just going to hit a lot harder. Cramorant has the added bulk. So, again, it's kind of like there's 6 different attackers to choose from, and let me tell you, all of them are better than Greninja. So I just don't see why you would pick Greninja. Next up is Lucario. Lucario is an all-arounder. Pretty average stats. He's kind of like Charizard. A little bit faster, though, while not having so much power. Steadfast is his ability. While at low HP, you gain a shield and increased movement, so you can kind of like get out of there, flank around a little bit, go back to heal, grab a citrus berry. Yeah, he's a melee attacker. He is very strong. Bone Rush is a really good attack. You perform a combo attack, and it knocks the opponent back on the last move of the combo. And you kind of like throw the bone, and if you click it again, you go to it and dealing damage as you pass by enemies. So he's pretty good. Again, he's in the same vein as Charizard, though. He's just like a faster Charizard. So he's going to be in the B ranking. Next up, we have Machamp. Now, Machamp I have like a love-hate relationship with. You can see he's an all-arounder. He has 8 offense, which is the highest for all the all-arounders. He has average endurance, average mobility, so it's not bad. If you have a status condition like a burn, or, I mean, it doesn't really matter if you're asleep. So really, it's just burn for this one. I think paralysis pops up now and then if someone's playing Pikachu. You'll have increased attack, so he's a good like counter to Cinderace. But the biggest thing is that his attacks like Cross Chop, increasing the critical hit, and Submission, uses critical hit and base attack speed are increased. That's what we want him for. He's kind of like the bulkier Absol. You get in, you use your attacks, get increased critical hit, just smash stuff. His Barrage Blow Unite move is crazy. I think I fought against one that had a Shell Bell, and I think they had Barrage Blow and Close Combat. They went from like a third health all the way back up to full. Now the negatives for him are, again, his passive doesn't come into play all the time. He is a melee attacker, so you got to get right up in someone's face to do any damage. He's not going to provide any support to your team, but he is a pretty decent wall breaker. So for that, I'm going to put him at B. Again, I got a love-hate relationship with him. I'm not super high on him, but I do see the power there. Next is Mr. Mime, another supporter. A very bulky supporter with 8 endurance, but he is the slowest character in the game with only 2 mobility, which is pretty crazy. Because Mr. Mime is actually relatively fast in the Pokemon games. Like, he's not slow, you know. So he has a lot of like his barriers, of course, for zoning. Guard swap is very interesting. So you can do this if you're about to get into a fight. You can guard swap onto like one of your attackers to give them your defenses, which is huge. And it'll also give you guys some increased speed, so you can kind of like stay on the outside, flanking a little bit, you know, firing off your confusions and your other attacks. Now, it is unfortunate that he is a melee unit for that reason, because you won't be able to do that all the time. You're going to have to wait for your confusion, your psychics to kind of go out while you're guard swapping. But I do think guard swap is a very strong tool. However, I just don't think Mr. Mime is quite up there with the other 2 supports. We all put Eldegoss in the A, and we'll get to Wigglytuff towards the end there. So he is going to C pick. Again, it's kind of like an opportunity cost thing with some of these Pokemon. Like, you don't want 3 supports on your team, right? Like, you want 1, maybe 2, but probably just 1 for supports. All right, next up we got the mascot of the Pokemon world, Pikachu. And look at this man. 9 offense, the highest in the game. He's a very easy Pokemon to master. Average mobility, so not too bad. Static ability, paralyzes enemies nearby for a short time when receiving damage. So very good against like melee attackers. Paralyze them, let you kind of get out, flank around. Electro Ball is a good ranged move, and it does more damage the lower the opponent's HP is. So it kind of like stacks. Like, the first one does a little bit, like, everyone's going to do stronger. Like, people are going to be like, oh, I took that, I can take 1 more, and then they're going to realize, no, you can't. I've seen people use Thunder. It's kind of more of like an area of denial sort of thing, because people see the ring pop up, so they try to just flank around it. If someone's in a Death Ball, I guess you can try it. Alright, and then Thunderbolt's just like a super strong attack that'll paralyze the foe as well. But yeah, but Pikachu, with its combination of pretty good mobility and his offense, plus it's just general great range moves, this is another S tier. And he's very easy to use as well. Of course, they had to make Pikachu one of the best Pokemon. Alright, next we got our last defender, Slowbro. Slowbro is pretty cool. So the way he takes damage is you'll see like a blue bar that'll go down slowly. So what that allows you to do is you can actually like finish a fight or stay in a fight a little bit longer, as long as your green bar is still up there, and then kind of run back or, you know, slack off if it's the early game to heal back up. Now, Surf, again, if a Pokemon's going to learn Surf, that's what you want to do. It's a dash move. It does residual damage. It pushes opponents back. Very good. Telekinesis is probably like the best one here. Amnesia, you could be like somewhat offensive, but Telekinesis is the best support move. It just immobilizes an opponent for what seems like 5 solid seconds. Like, it's pretty good. And then Slow Beam is that, but it actually like does damage. So this is, again, if you're with like a teammate and it's like a 2v2, you just made it a you know, basically a 1v1, but you can take out their scariest threat basically with that telekinesis. And Surf on a defensive Pokemon is really good. Slowbro's a A tier defender. Alright, next actually this is our last defender. I thought we were talking about Snorlax. But Snorlax, my boy. 10 endurance, the bulkiest hubba chubba you ever see. Downside is he is melee, but you want to get up in there anyway. Heavy Slam has huge range, actually, for attacking. It does AoE damage, kind of breaks up like death balls so that teammates can flank around and get to the Pokemon that they want to kill. And then you have Block, which what I like to do is if we're fighting, like especially in the lower lane where there's more grass, you can kind of like flank around and then block and push like some retreating Pokemon back into your defending team to like finish them off. Some people like Yawn. I just feel like Block is a lot more consistent, which is why I would do that. And then Power Nap is a very strong tool for a bulky Pokemon. If you're, again, I talked about this with Chaotic. If you're in one of those Chaos fights where it's like 4v4 Pokemon or whatever, you go for a Power Nap. Not only are you doing AoE damage, but Snorlax heals all the way back up to full. Is healed of all its conditions and hindrances. Like, that is huge. That just lets you stay in the game so much longer. And for that and its other tools, Snorlax is S tier. It is the best defender in my opinion. Next up, we got Talonflame. Talonflame is probably, other than Gengar that's levitating, it is naturally the fastest Pokemon. It also has a very high scoring. And while it's at high HP, its movement speed is actually increased. So a healthy Talonflame is going to be faster than a Levitate Gengar. So again, you're using this as a jungler. You're picking off wild Pokemon in the middle lane. If your team needs help at the top or bottom, you kind of just fly in, poke, flank. Like, Talonflame is the best poker in the game. You got like a dash move with Flame Charge. Aerial Ace is a smaller dash move. But I like Flame Charge because it increases your movement speed again. So you can use it poke. Like Flame Charge in, get some poke. Maybe get a couple basic hits before they, again, because of the auto aim, lock onto you. Now you have your movement speed. You fly back out. And Fly is a huge move as well. You go up into the sky, you're immune while you're up here, and then you have like a arrow effect that you swoop down and do damage. But this is kind of like, not only is it an annoying attack because they, you kind of like follow your opponents and they gotta like break up and do all this stuff because they don't want the AoE damage on multiples of them. But it can really stall out a few turns. Like, again, Talonflame is not the bulkiest here. It only has 3 endurance, which is like the lowest. But you just need to stall out a couple seconds until your teammates arrive. I mean, Fly will get you those couple seconds. And for that reason, Talonflame is a solid A tier. It's just the best flanker and poker in the game. Absol will hit harder, which is why it's still a better speedster, but Talonflame is the speed of speedster. Alright, next we got our last attacker, Venusaur. Venusaur actually is tied with Pikachu for highest in offense, and it's a little bit bulkier, but it's slower. Now, the thing with Venusaur is it has a lot of ranged attacks. Sludge Bomb, good area of denial. Giga Drain gets a little bit of HP back, although it's not as much as I would like. Solar Beam is like, this is how I would use Venusaur. I would have Solar Beam and Sludge Bomb. I would just be in the back, like have your teammates kind of like in front of you. You're in the back, you're just Solar Beam, kind of picking some stuff off, throwing a Sludge Bomb here and there to like stop flanks. Your regular attack is ranged, so you can't get it from behind like a lime. But the Solar Beam, not only it's piercing, it if you got 3 Pokemon in line, like I've done this, I've taken out like half health from one Solar Beam on like 3 Pokemon. I don't like Venusaur's Unite move. I've never seen good impact on it. And Venusaur, it has below average in endurance, which is your defenses, but I feel like it's so squishy. I feel like I notice it die a lot faster, which does help its overgrow ability, but again, I don't want to be in low health because Pokemon, they do damage in this game. If you're at low health, you're probably not going to stick around long, and Giga Drain just doesn't give too much recovery or do too much damage. So again, for attackers, I think Solar Beam is a good move. Like, it's strong, and it can shoot like halfway across the map sometimes. But Venusaur is a D tier. It's just not worth it compared to some of the other attackers that we kind of talked about. Kind of the same vein as Greninja. Alright, next up we got Wigglytuff, the last of our support Pokemon. Wigglytuff is, again, it's kind of like an anti-melee Pokemon with its Cute Charm ability. Infatuates Pokemon that are attacking it from close range. Dazzling Gleam, shoots in an arc, hits twice as well, which is good, I guess. But once you level up, once you get to late game, it's going to kind of like slow down their movement speed, which is real nice. And for your other moves, you can have Rollout, which will allow you to kind of like bounce around a little bit, which is nice. Or you can have Sing, which slows down your opponents in a nearby area, like in a ring, and if they don't leave it, so again, chaotic fights, you're kind of like outside of a fight a little bit, you drop a Sing, they don't realize what's going on right away, they're all asleep, and then your team turns the battle there. So with that, I really think that Wigglytuff is pretty solid. I'm going to put it as a B tier for supports. It's not quite as good as Eldegoss, but it can definitely do some things. And last, we got the first unlockable Pokemon, Aurora. Again, if you log in, I think before August, you will get Aurora for free. It'll be in your mailbox. 7 offense, so pretty good. 3 endurance, which is low. And then his mobility is 8, which is pretty high. And he has pretty good scoring as well, so he scores fast. Now, he says he's an expert level, but I actually think that he's pretty easy to play as. Volt Switch is a cool dash attack where you'll dash and do some damage, but there's like a 3-second window where you can click it again and you'll go back to where you started. So you can kind of like play around with your opponent a little bit. You can dash, they might chase you a little bit, and then you go back and kind of get around that stuff. Spark is also interesting. Spark has a little bit higher learning curve, just because it's like a combo attack. And you have Discharge, which is an AoE attack. I kind of like this because, again, as a speedster, you're going to be jungling, and you're only really going to leave when you're either going to score or when your team needs help, and you go in there, you discharge, you just get some damage on some stuff. You kind of like Volt Switch, does good damage. But yeah, Aurora is actually a really good Pokemon. He's going to be an A tier. So you can see that most of the Pokemon, I think, are average or above average. And these C tiers are still playable. I think Crustal has a lot that it can do. Again, I just don't know if it's worth picking over these. Gengar, if you get the, level curve, master like his moves and timing and everything, he can definitely be a B or higher. And then Mr. Rhyme is still good. I just think that Eldegoss's healing and the overall general support of Wigglytuff is better. But yeah, so that is my final tier list. Let me know what you think. Comment down below if you would like to see more Pokemon Unite gameplay on the channel, because I'm definitely interested in playing more. And if you want me to be recording it or playing with the guys, I'll try to up the Discord volume next time. But yeah, let me know on that. And as always, stay classy, society.